This is the Conqueror, a Turkish drilling ship that's been searching for oil and gas reserves off the country's coast since last year. Ankara says it's in the Mediterranean to ensure Turkish Cypriots get their fair share of the region's natural resources, and that it will stay its course even if it means straining ties with the European Union.
If such decisions are taken against Turkey, we will increase the scope of our activities. We have 3 drilling ships there and we will shortly send a 4th. They should understand they cannot address this problem in such a fashion. We will make our decisions about our continental shelf.
The economic bloc has suspended high-level talks with Ankara, including pre-accession negotiations and an aviation agreement that would reduce airfares for European travelers. It's frozen $160 million set aside for social development programs in Turkey, and it has asked the European Investment Bank to review lending activities in the country, warning more punitive measures may be on the way.
I can only hope that we do not add another crisis to the many conflicts and crises that we already have. Turkey knows what's at stake.
But Turkey's foreign minister has dismissed the sanctions as worthless, reiterating Ankara's call for a negotiated settlement.
The European Union should not stand behind mistakes with this nonsense of solidarity. They know this. I said earlier, our expectations are clear. Turkish Cypriots' rights should be guaranteed. They should teach sharing to the Greek side.
The dispute between Greek-administered Cyprus and Turkey has been simmering for years. Since 2001, the two sides have been negotiating how to share resources between the divided island, but those talks are dead in the water. In May, Greece signed agreements with Egypt and Israel to explore hydrocarbon reserves in the region. That's prompted Ankara to speed up its drilling activities. It's deployed 2 drilling ships and a seismic surveyor in the eastern Mediterranean.
Turkey is one of the guarantor nations of Cyprus, and in particular the northern part, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. It has legitimate interests if the southern part, the Republic of Cyprus, is engaging in drilling, hydrocarbon, any other energy activities, that the entire island of Cyprus benefits.
With another vessel heading to the continental shelf and no sign of a resumption in negotiations, it seems the positions of both Turkey and Greece will only become further entrenched. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
And for more on this now, Taha Arvas joins us here in the studio. He's a financial columnist at the Daily Sabah. Good to have you back, Taha. So what do you make of the EU sanctions against Turkey? Is there any room for dialogue here?
Absolutely. I think there's absolutely room for dialogue. The sanctions themselves aren't very punitive. They're almost a slap on the wrist, if less than that, only because much of the money that we're talking about wasn't earmarked specifically for, it's not like a grant. So there's room for dialogue. I think it would be in the best interest of both Turkey and Cyprus and Northern Cyprus and Greece to sit down and discuss with the EU how best to navigate the situation.
Now, as we know, there are many competing claims in these waters around Cyprus. Can you tell us more about these claims and why Turkey believes that it's entitled to drill in these waters?
Right. Well, at least, I mean, a major part of these areas are on the Turkish side of the continental shelf as it is. And then we have Northern Cyprus, which is, a part of Cyprus, a part of the island. So to dismiss their claims, the Turkish Cypriots' claims, or Turkey's completely, is just foolish. It's just, it's not a very cooperative effort to come together and peacefully discuss what's going on. I mean, we have, as the piece just mentioned, the Egyptians, Israelis, even the Italians are in the area, exploring. But Turkey is the closest country to this area, and the Northern Cypriots also have claims that are being ignored.
Yes, well, this is exactly what Ankara is saying. It's saying that by moving against Turkey, the EU is effectively ignoring the rights of Turkish Cypriots on the island. Right. The government says they're also entitled to the resources in and around Cyprus. What do you make of that argument?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, in 1960, the United Kingdom, Turkey, and Greece came together, and the United Nations, and recognized a unified Cyprus. And that lasted for 3 or 4 years. And then after that, there were obviously military conflicts. And since then, there has been this this uncertainty about the future of Cyprus. Unfortunately, Cyprus was admitted into the EU without some final status negotiations, unfortunately, and so it's still up in the air. But the fact remains there are people that live on the island that are not a part of Cyprus proper, and Cyprus, the EU country, and should benefit from the natural resources that are part of their claim.
Now, Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu says that Greek-administered Cyprus needs to consider a cooperation agreement that's been put forward by Turkish Northern Cyprus. Do you think they'll actually do that? Do you consider this proposal?
I would hope so, only because Turkey, Northern Cyprus, and Southern Cyprus all have legitimate claims. If you just look at a map, it's obvious, to these waters and to the natural resources under them. There's a very peaceful and very beneficial way, mutually beneficial way to go about this, and then there's a non-mutually beneficial way, and hopefully those in the EU and Cyprus won't choose the latter, only because it wouldn't be fair to everyone.
Now, what sort of reserves are we talking about here? Are they small deposits, big deposits, lucrative, not lucrative? What are we talking about?
I mean, much of the Turkish drilling so far is very research-oriented. I mean, there aren't major proven reserves as of yet, at least where Turkey is drilling. But where the Egyptians, Israelis have come together with the Italians, I believe it is, to drill for these areas, I mean, they wouldn't be there unless there was something there, frankly. So continued drilling shows us that there are at least proven reserves enough to at least make it discussing.
Now, how do you think all this will end? I guess it's still early days in this dispute, but we heard there the Turkish foreign minister say that perhaps a fourth ship is on its way to these waters. Do you think this will end in dialogue? Will Turkey stop drilling or continue? What's your thoughts on the issue?
I think it will end in dialogue. I don't think Turkey will stop, frankly, because, like I said, there are all these other countries here. There are 7 other countries that are drilling in and around the island as it is. Excluding Turkey would make no sense. It's like I said, not only Turkish Cypriots are on the island, but Turkey is the closest country to the island. So it would make no sense to exclude Turkey, and I think a peaceful dialogue is the best way to do this. Excluding Turkey wouldn't be beneficial to anyone, and I think the European Union will come around.
Okay, Taha Arvas, we'll have to leave it there, but of course we'll be keeping a close eye on the situation. Thank you again for joining us.